Hello, everybody. On July 13th, 2024, as now the whole world knows, an assassin shot Donald Trump in the head, hitting him in the ear. He survived, but he struck several people in the crowd who had come to watch Donald Trump speak, and one of these men died. This man was shielding his family from a hail of bullets, and he lost his life. Donald Trump heroically rises up after being struck, fortunately only in the ear, with blood dripping from his face, raising his fist in defiance and yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." The story, again, I think most of you have already heard. But there are a lot of questions as the story begins to develop as to how something like this could have happened. How could a man climb on top of a roof, bear crawl, with people screaming that he's there, police confronting him, Secret Service staring him down, and no action was taken to remove the president from the stage for 2 full minutes? There's a lot to talk about. And so I'm here at the RNC in Milwaukee. It's crazy. Just where we are as a country right now, what this means, the reaction from the media. There's probably dozens of different angles to this to break down and where we're currently at. One, of course, is the circumstances surrounding the assassination attempt. What we know now, how it is that Donald Trump narrowly escaped this. Questions surrounding how the Secret Service allowed this to happen, how local police allowed this to happen. And unfortunately, I would say, as a man who likes to cite Occam's razor, typically when it comes to situations like this, I don't think there is a reasonable approach to this other than, at the bare minimum, someone in an official capacity wanted this to happen. If Donald Trump had not turned his head to look at a chart and point it out, he probably wouldn't be here right now. The shooter was given every opportunity somehow, to take this shot on Donald Trump. It is my firm belief that there is someone, I don't know to what extent or how far it goes, but somebody in official capacity wanted that to happen. I've run it through my head over and over again, especially as the information changes. Perhaps something will change again, and we don't know for sure. Information has been updating rapidly with situations like this. Everybody, of course, immediately takes the airwaves to try and report what they know, what they're hearing, what they think they know. And it's hard to parse through what's true and, how this all goes down. In the day and a half now, since this incident, we've gotten a bit more information. We learned that this man was confronted by local police who backed down immediately and didn't stop him. We know that Trump supporters standing on the ground pointed up, screaming, "There's a man on the roof," to police. We know that Secret Service had the man in their sights, but waited. There's different estimates on the amount of time Secret Service waited. There's different explanations as to why they did wait. None of it adds up. And so I'd like to believe that this was all just, the dominoes that have been falling over for some time. That is, and I think it's important to understand, this is not the first attempt on Donald Trump's life. When Tucker Carlson came out not that long ago saying we are barreling towards assassination territory, it wasn't a man making a bold prediction, as some might say. In 2015, I think it was 2015, may have been 2015, fact check me on this one. A man grabbed the gun of a police officer at a Trump event, but was subdued. We all know the incident where Trump was speaking at a rally and someone rushed the stage and was stopped, jumping over the barricades and being grabbed by security. And now Donald Trump was literally shot in the head, but it was fortunate that he had turned his head at the right moment. It's not the first time. It's just the closest anyone's has gotten. Hopefully it's the last time anyone gets anywhere near this. And, I have to wonder. I've got a lot of information to break down for you. We've got a lot of sources. We've got a lot of questions. We have the reaction from the left. We have the reaction from the media. We have the failures in reporting from the media. Man, I can't believe where we're at. I mean, to turn a phrase, I can believe exactly where we are at, and I'm terrified of it. I'm inspired by Donald Trump. I was tearing up when I saw Donald Trump rise up with blood coming off his face, screaming, "Fight, fight, fight." And, my reaction to this was, if Donald Trump can take a bullet for you, you can take the time to go and cast a vote for him. It's I don't know. Seeing all these responses on Twitter, seeing the posts being made by the left, prominent Democrat and liberal personalities split between either calling for more violence, lamenting the fact that Trump survived, or outright saying Trump himself staged this. Two big conspiracy theories. The left believing that Donald Trump staged it. Prominent Democrat donors putting out emails saying it's too perfect for Trump. He staged it, which is the most psychotic thing anyone could possibly say. The idea that Donald Trump planned for a guy to get him in the ear with a bullet. Insane. No, but they're suggesting that Trump had gel packs planted in his hat or something like that. There are a couple people who are seriously injured, and one man who is dead. I want to say one more thing, too, as we start going through the information a little bit in the context. Trump's response and theories around what happened. There's a lot of people saying that he missed. The shooter missed. Let's assess that. First, I understand what people mean when they say that. Trump survived. And so if the intention, and it was, to end his life, then he missed. But I don't like saying that. I don't like saying that he missed, because there's a man who's dead. And it's terrifying. He was a firefighter, and he was shielding his children and his daughter. We'll get to all of that. They've raised a lot of money for the family. If the argument or the narrative is that these people want you dead, as many on the right have said, then he didn't miss. He was aiming for Trump and his supporters. But I understand he was trying to kill Donald Trump, and he missed. But I think it's important to stress that it was just reckless disregard for everyone else. Some have said divine intervention. The flag that you can see in this photo was blown in the wind and flipped over, that some have said is now, they call it the angel flag. And I look at the way the flag is strung up, and I said to myself, how did the flag invert like that? If the flag was to flip over in the wind, it would just flip over, but the way it's hung. But it flipped over into itself and made a cross-like shape. Believe what you want to believe. I think how everything went down, that it seems like somebody wanted this to happen, and it is only by the grace of God, or what some secularists may just say, sheer luck, that Donald Trump turned his head to the right, pointed off, and the bullet went right through his ear. But if he was looking forward and he didn't make that turn, he would not be here. And on live television, the front runner for the 2024 election, the popular candidate, would have died. This country is in a dark place, and many people have predicted this. Famously, Tucker Carlson was attacked by the media. Alex Jones, of course, but those attacks seem to be never ending. Tucker Carlson said, this is where you go. Right now, prominent liberal and Democrat personalities are still fanning the flames. And it's scary. It really is. Some people might think it's silly, it's funny, or to be ignored, but there are prominent Democrat personalities right now that are saying, I should say liberal personalities, there are less prominent Democrats wishing and making insane posts about what they hoped had happened to Trump. Progressives posting on social media saying, how could you have missed things like that? But there are Democrats who are saying, still, after all of this, Donald Trump is an existential threat. Oh, sure. Joe Biden gave a statement the other night And he said, we solve our problems at the battle box. He said it twice. Battle box, not ballot box. I was watching CBS News and they said, Biden said ballot box. And I thought to myself, who are you to change the words of the president because you think he meant something else? The man said what he said, the battle box. I don't know what that means. I think it's fair to assume the man's not all with it. But in this speech he was giving, he made reference to January 6th, the Whitmer plot. It certainly did not seem, as he hammered these points over and over again, that he was trying to calm things down. No, the president was fanning the flames to make sure everyone knew the state this country was in. And then you see people saying things like, no, we're all about voting. But Trump is an existential threat. What? An existential threat. The words they've used over and over again. A threat to democracy. The way they describe it, that Trump is Hitler. Just recently, the magazine cover came out showing Trump with a Hitler mustache, American fascism. The rhetoric they've used over and over again. It's fascinating to me. They accuse shows like mine. They claim people on the right of being stochastic terrorists. Every time this has come up. Every time. We here at Timcast, on Timcast IRL, or the associates of the show and friends, have stressed the same thing. You do not want this. We want peace. We hope that if Donald Trump wins, there can be accountability under the law and everything moves forward calmly. But it's the left. The Summer of Love riots. The shooting in Provo, Utah. I mean, certainly there have been attempts on Democrats. You know, Gabby Giffords, I believe this was a while ago. But in recent history, in the Donald Trump cycle, it has been a relentless barrage against those who care about this country, fly its flag, or support Donald Trump. And now an innocent man who was just there to watch Donald Trump speak was killed. Let's go through some of the information we have. And I want to address the conspiracy theories, the response on the left. This photo says a lot. And I want to make sure we can debunk one of the talking points we're getting from the left right now. What you see here is the bullet. This is what's been reported across the board. It's hard to know exactly what we're looking at. And it's hard to see on the screen, and many of you have seen this. A long sheen, a streak, going right past Donald Trump's head. That appears to be the bullet that struck Donald Trump in the ear. Several shots were fired. Donald Trump grabs the side of his head before dropping to the ground. Secret Service communications were recording what had happened. Trump says, let me get my shoes, stands up, pushes his way through the Secret Service, raising his fist, yelling, fight, fight, fight. At this moment, that bullet whizzing past his head, that's the bullet that hit him. Because as soon as he got hit after that first hit, he ducks. He takes cover. There's a lot of questions, man. Here's the iconic photo, which I just have shown you. New York Post reported last night, Trump credits chart for saving his life. Doctor says he came a quarter of an inch from dying. All right. Who's to blame? Certainly there are many people saying call for unity. Joe Biden has taken down his commercials and has stopped running ads. I believe that his speech last night was intending to fan the flames. If you're going to give a speech to the American people after someone tries to assassinate the frontrunner for your presidential elections, what you say is simple. We need to tone things down. Please, for the sake of this country, let us try to find the common ground we can and move forward together as a nation. And that's it. You can then say, this country has gone through hard times before. We will go through hard times again. And we will make it through this. I encourage everyone to go and voice your opinions at the ballot box, to choose who you think should be the leader of this country, to vote for the people you believe will do the right thing. And that's it. But Joe Biden was sure to make sure he mentioned January 6th. And it's funny because as I'm listening to it, you'd think he'd say something. I mean, maybe one or two. Usually it's a rule of threes, right? When you're making an example, you say 1, 2, and 3. You say that the attempt on Donald Trump's life. I have no problem with him mentioning January 6th. He could have said that the attempt on Trump's life, the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, the riots in 2020. Violence is not the answer. That's not what he did. We heard little of the leftist violence. Aaron Danielson's dead. He was shot and killed by a leftist with a communist with a Black Lives Matter tattoo on his neck. Western Lensman posted this video on Saturday at 6:40, about a half an hour after it happened. Dan Goldman saying Trump has to be eliminated. Oh, they're compilations of all of this stuff. On July 8th, 2024, Joe Biden said, "We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye." The response. There have been many on the right. Ann Coulter, for instance, said, "This is rhetoric and we shouldn't condemn it." I disagree. He was speaking at a fundraiser and he said, my job is to beat Donald Trump. I'm certain about it. I'm able to do that. So we're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye. I feel like the idea that this was some turn of phrase that he was just saying focus on Donald Trump. I just can't see it. I don't think Joe Biden was literally saying he wanted someone to go out and do these things. But it's grains of sand making a heap, as I often say. The question is the point of what is your responsibility and adding the last straw to the camel's back. The snowflake doesn't blame itself for the avalanche, et cetera, et cetera. At a time when there's already been attempts made on Donald Trump's life, rather unsuccessfully. Again, I'll stress, when an individual grabbed the gun from a holster of a cop and tried to rip it away at an event, at a Trump event, and failed. When someone rushed the stage and failed. Why are they saying these things? They shouldn't be. I'm not saying that everyone on the right's innocent. I never do. But I can tell you this. The conversations that we have over and over and over again are, we must solve this through the political system. I've had many people call into Timcast IRL, and they have asked questions. They've said, what do we do when the system is broken down, when Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro are in prison and Merrick Garland is not? And even I've said, they are telling us there is no system. I have begged them, prove to me the system exists and there will be equality under the law. I don't care about retribution. I don't care about revenge. I care about the system just functioning as we expect it to. And so we get asked, what do we do then? And the response is the same. We're different. We want the system to exist. We want the equality under the law. We recognize that if Steve Bannon goes to jail, which he should not be, but if he does, at the very least, Congress can hold Merrick Garland in contempt, and Garland goes to jail too, and they don't do it. And then many, they question this. On our side, those who believe in this country, in the rule of law, and a functioning society for which we can flourish, they say, then how do we do this? We have to struggle to maintain the law, this country. They show us every day that they're willing to flout the rules, target us, kill a man, try to take out the front runner, because they want the system to break. And all it takes, and what I fear the most, is when people on the right agree with the left that there is no system. That terrifies me. As I've expressed numerous times, talking about the subject of social collapse. The left already behaves as though there is no system. They'll fight cops. They de-arrest. They have no respect for law enforcement. They have no respect for it in the physical sense of a police officer and in the political sense of what the codified law is. You've already got people in cities, roving bands, smashing department stores, stealing whatever they want, taking whatever they want. The moment that the right or regular Americans start to feel that this is the way the system is gone. And at that point, only the most brutal will take over. There's two views about it. Noam Chomsky believed that this would result in a right-wing takeover. I don't know for sure. Cities will become barbaric hellholes, and they almost already are. Crimes through the roof, homelessness, mass illegal immigration. Things are getting bad in this country. I think it is fair to say we want to tone the rhetoric down. But for those of us, the majority, we've been toned down. How silly is it, right? I've heard people on the right say the tree of liberty must be watered from time to time. And what do we say? What do our guests say? What is the conversation on the right? Well, actually, Jefferson later said he regretted the statement, and it actually is an affront to what the founding fathers actually tried to do. I've seen the people say the founding fathers would be stacking bodies by now. That's Fed posting, because no, they wouldn't. It's a historical fact. They would not. The founding fathers were embroiled in a war for a year and a month before they actually bothered declaring independence. So no, they wouldn't be. The war started when the crown tried seizing weapons, and some local farmer militia, we don't even know who fired first because it was unofficial. The war started, the shot heard round the world, Lexington and Concord. It was not an official declaration by the founding fathers to do anything. It was only after extreme pressure emerged. Why? Because the founding fathers didn't want war. That's why I'm a big fan of the movie The Patriot. Not that it's real, but that they tried to embody the sentiment of, the main character, Mel Gibson's character, Benjamin, I forgot his last name in the movie, says, mark my words, your children will learn of this war. It will not be fought on some far-off battlefield, but in front of your homes. I think that's something most people on the right understand. The left seems to be more chaos. There are certainly people who are more prominent in the uniparty establishment who will do anything to stop Donald Trump. But then there are many people who are just, I don't even know if it's fair to say they're useful idiots. They're just chaos. That's what they are. I think, to show you some of these posts before we get into the timeline, and I'm really interested to talk about the how this happened. And I will stress again that I am of the opinion that there has to be some official element to this. Of course, the media will say Tim Pool's a conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I don't care about these people. I care about logic, probabilities, what's true, and what can help us, and how we navigate something like this. And for that, I believe the unfortunate logical conclusion is some kind of official element to this. If we want to be as absent-minded as possible, we simply say it was abject negligence. But I don't think that makes sense, because I've experienced the security detail of Secret Service. I've experienced my own personal security detail. I've experienced security detail of others, and it just doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense. I've got some statements from Corey Mills as well as Dan Bongino that I think are important for you all to hear. George Takei tweeted this yesterday. Trump remains an existential threat to democracy. We'll defeat him with ballots, not bullets. I think it's important to understand what this means, whether George Takei wanted it to mean anything. First of all, I don't think he's actually the one tweeting. What this statement says is that it's basically, they're saying, go vote November, but you can't call someone an existential threat and then just say, but we vote. You can't do it. Because this statement has two conclusions. We succeed in November, or we cease to exist. Our democracy ceases to exist. There's only one conclusion afterwards if you don't win at the ballot box. And this is the rhetoric they keep pushing. Now, how many of them know they're doing it? I think the important thing to understand about the political rhetoric in this country is it's important to understand emergence. With social media, hyperpolarization doesn't need to be directed by a singular entity that's trying to make it happen. But it's everyone constantly one-upping each other to the point where they don't even realize the narrative line that they're driving. That if Trump is Hitler, that if Trump is all of these things, then voting doesn't cut it. That's the rhetoric they're pushing. And you ask them to stop, but they don't. And it's not about morals. It's not about what's true. Truth matters always. I always say it. It matters how people will react, how they feel. And we saw that on Saturday. They're going to put out all the lies they want. I want to stress this too. The reason I showed the bullet in the first place is that they tried claiming that Trump was hit by a piece of glass. There's men on the left saying Trump didn't take a bullet. He was hit by a piece of glass. It was a ricochet. The teleprompter shattered. It's a lie. The teleprompter is completely intact. Trump got shot. He's lucky to be alive. We're lucky he's alive. Unfortunately, others aren't so lucky. I want to show you this video. And I want to talk about, this is a video from Milk Bar TV. We have questions right now about how something like this could have happened. How could Donald Trump have been shot with Secret Service detail? In this video from Milk Bar TV, the individuals over at Milk Bar did something I think is a great service, published earlier in the morning at 2 a.m. They compiled the videos that we've seen released so far, synchronizing Trump's words with other videos, creating a timeline of events. And we've learned some startling things, something that shocked me to my core, and I'm sure most of you will be as well. 2 full minutes pass with people knowing a man with a gun is bear crawling on a rooftop with bystanders screaming. I have a question for all of you. Corey Mills brought it up yesterday. It's an important point. At no point did one member of law enforcement, at no point did one member simply say, shoot her on the roof. The Secret Service would have just walked up onto the stage and grabbed Trump and pulled him away. That detail alone causes me great pain because it presents in my mind a logic that I can't escape. That somehow, in an official capacity, somehow, this was allowed to happen? Now, I can't tell you how. I don't know. People win the lottery. These things happen too. Certainly, it's possible that with every word said against Donald Trump, every action they've taken against him, sooner or later, a crack in the armor would appear and some psychopath would take his shot. But none of this makes sense. Now, you've got varying degrees of conspiracy on this one. The left, that Trump staged it. That's an absurdity. On the right, that either this was abject negligence or it was intentional. The deep state made a move to take him out. Certainly, there are prominent conservative figures saying the FBI is behind this. I don't know about that. I don't know who's behind it. At the bare minimum, though, after watching this video of Trump's speech and the timeline of events, it's hard to conclude that this was a lone gunman individual who just found the crack in the armor. I don't want to play the video in full. It is 5 minutes long, and many of you have seen it, but I want to highlight a few key points. We see here at the 10-second mark, as Trump is speaking, you can hear Trump speaking in the background of these other videos where bystanders were filming an individual climbing up a ladder, bear crawling on a roof with a rifle. 18 seconds, they're screaming. We got reporting later on that a police officer actually confronted the man who then aimed his weapon at the officer who retreated. The question I have, watch this video. We're at 1:21. It has now been 1:21 since the shooter was identified by police and by bystanders. My question for you is this. Not a single person, not a single Secret Service agent ran up on stage, grabbed President Trump, and rushed him off stage to his vehicle. It doesn't make sense. I watched this video. 1:48. Several videos now. You see people all over the place pointing, yelling. We make it to 1:53 when it goes down. You can hear people screaming. 2 minutes and 1 second before the first shot is fired, which appears to strike Donald Trump, who then takes cover, drops to the ground. Secret Service then runs up. Explain it to me. Explain it to me in a way that makes sense. Explain to me how Secret Service, local police, ignored bystanders for 2 minutes with the threats that have been made against Donald Trump, with the statements made against him, with celebrities holding up bloodied heads of Donald Trump and getting fired over it. Explain to me how when Trump supporters scream, he's on the roof, he's got a gun, they do nothing. Now, this is hard for me. It's a hard one for me because I cannot, for the life of me, fathom that all of these cops and all of these Secret Service agents are in on anything. And I don't believe that's true. The idea that every element of the security detail We're told in advance. Yeah, we're going to let this happen. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But I also don't believe that this was a lucky psychopath. Let's start from the beginning. Secret Service security. Corey Mills, representative from Florida, was being interviewed, and he said when they did this work, because he's worked in Secret Service, he was in the Army, they talk about this when they're doing their security assessments. What are our vantage points 100 yards out, 200 yards out, 300 yards out? Heck, in the movie Shooter, a fictional movie with Mark Wahlberg, the government goes to Mark Wahlberg and says, here's the layout. What are where could this go down? And they ask the guy as a sniper, and he says, here are your vantage points. There was no law enforcement, no police, nobody near that building on that roof. Let's add that up together. Let's play Occam's razor. And again, I'm stressing. I'm not saying I know at all. I'm not saying, I'm saying whether you believe it or not, there are questions that need to be answered. And these questions needs to be investigated. I feel that in most of these situations, we end up with some explain it away. How is it that between 130 and 150 yards out with a direct line of sight to the president's stage, there are buildings with a ladder, no security, no police? That's problem number one. How? Direct line of sight. Okay, explanation first. They didn't do a proper security assessment. Possible. Let's add another grain of sand to that heap. 2 minutes and 1 second before the shots ring out, people are screaming there's a man on the roof and that he's got a gun. How does that happen? That no action was taken. Negligence, perhaps. Negligence? Nobody got on the radio and said anything? Confusion, disarray, failure. Certainly it's a possibility. Because like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, certainly people do win the lottery. 1 in 3 million's chance, and you might get $1 billion. It happens. It happens. These things can line up. And considering the amount of rallies that Trump does, and considering the amount of enemies that the media has generated, and I do blame the media for this, sooner or later, someone would find a crack in the armor. Unfortunately, having been through security issues myself, and I'm not trying to bring it on me, I'm just saying with my personal experience, the experience I've had with Secret Service going to many of these events, the statements of Dan Bongino and Corey Mills, the security I have personally witnessed for other prominent celebrities, personalities, and speakers. I just can't wrap my head around this. I cannot understand how this happened or how it was an accident. When we go through security, when we're hiring people, we talk about the level of security requirements. I've done events where I've got a guy walking behind me the entire time. We had an event where we had to dispatch security to surround a building. I don't want to pretend like it's 50 people. It's like we had 3 or 4 people go out and monitor outside of a building because of security threats. You mean to tell me the front runner for the 2024 election, the popular choice currently in the polls and predictions, and a former president, and there was a building with a direct line of sight to him, a 2-minute advanced warning, and this man was allowed to get off a shot that if only Donald Trump hadn't turned his head, would have taken his life. It is very, very difficult for a reasonable person to conclude this was mere chance. Now let's talk about what that means. It doesn't mean that any law enforcement's in on anything. And it does not mean there's a conspiracy. It doesn't. I believe that conspiracies are possible. What could this have been? Well, in the most extreme and absurd case, which I certainly do not believe, everyone's in on it. But Trump, Secret Service knows. And they're told not to pull the president. I really, really doubt that. Unfortunately, I showed a clip earlier where there was a politician saying Trump should be eliminated. The Democrats are calling him an existential threat. Certainly, if you've spent nearly a decade now screaming that this man is Hitler who will destroy this country, you will generate some fervent psychopaths. Now, let's say this is an emergent phenomenon. Throughout the years of rhetoric, calling Donald Trump the worst names in the book and claiming he's going to end the world and all of these things, you have instilled in people's minds a Trump derangement syndrome. We know Trump derangement syndrome exists because most of you have experienced someone who has it. They seem to be irrational. It doesn't matter what's true or false. They believe the craziest things. You'll ask them what they don't like about Trump and they have no answer. Now, is it possible that, considering how many people work in the government, someone in the government has Trump derangement syndrome? I think at the highest level, Democrats know Trump is certainly not a threat to democracy, whatever that means, because Donald Trump was already president for several years, for a full term. And what did he do? He did nothing. Okay, well, to be honest, no new wars? Oof. Maybe that's the threat they're talking about. No new wars. He did not invoke the Insurrection Act. He did not create camps. He did not round people up. Oh, they tried lying and claiming he did, but, you know, those immigration detention centers were built during the Obama years. To be honest, the reality is Trump was a marginal president. No, hold on. Because I know a lot of people are going to say he's the greatest president. Hold on. I think Trump is the greatest president of my lifetime. And I say that because it's the only thing I can say. If I wasn't alive, I don't really understand the tumult the country experienced and who was good or who was bad. Certainly no, Jimmy Carter wasn't good. We know there's Woodrow Wilson and a couple other really bad ones. Buchanan, perhaps. In my lifetime, Donald Trump has done the best job. And for that, he deserves to be rehired. And what is that best job? Well, as our chief executive officer, he did not put people in camps. He did not invoke the Insurrection Act. He did not go round up leftists or do anything of the sort, even when the Summer of Love riots were in full swing. It shows restraint. Amazing. And they claim behind the scenes Trump was saying he wanted people shot, and none of it happened for some reason. Because they're lying. Because Trump is marginally good. I mean it. I know a lot of people who love Trump want to hear that, no, he's absolute the best period. Let's break this down in a couple ways. He is the greatest president of my lifetime because he did good. He did good in the moral sense. I mean that literally. But he also did well for a president. The economy was going well. Peace agreements were popping up all over the place thanks to President Trump. He went to North Korea, crossed into enemy territory with no security detail in a sign of peace and goodwill with an enemy nation that we are at war with. And I have tremendous respect. He made some mistakes. Tomahawk missiles fired into Syria, commando raids in Yemen. Outright admitting, I mean, look, we're aiding Saudi Arabia because we want these weapons deals. They're good for our economy. He tried to withdraw our troops from Syria. They lied to him and us to keep them there. He got our troops out of Afghanistan. These are all such tremendously great things. But, you know, he hired some bad people. He did. Bolton was a huge mistake. Milley. I mean, he was betrayed by some of these people. Let's not get into the FBI, the CIA, and the people that he hired. Not good people. And so I say when you look at all of it, Trump is the greatest president because he did better than everybody else. But in terms of an actual standard, it was marginally good. But they don't like that. They say he's an existential threat, and I wonder what that even means. Now, back to the point. Certainly, after a decade of this, you drive someone to going mad. There are many questions about the shooter, and I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to say his name or show his photos. And this is important, too. You know, when on Saturday, people were sharing fake photos. I mean, the information is always really, really bad when it comes out, when news breaks like this. Apparently some random guy posted pictures of himself and then claimed he was the guy. And then a bunch of different versions of this guy's photo started going around, and he panicked saying, it's not me. And now there are people who still believe that this guy who posted what he claimed were selfies, I don't know. Maybe it was him. I have no idea. And they've given us a name. It's been reported far and wide. And, you know, I want to wait before we get into the greater detail on that and make sure that the facts are correct. But the point that I want to make in all of this is, how did you not assess 100 yards out? How was there a building with a ladder right up to it that gave you a perfect line of sight where you could belly crawl with people screaming for 2 full minutes? I'll tell you my view. I certainly believe there's a probability that this is, you break a system and eventually someone finds a hole in the armor and they're crazy people targeting Trump. And the reason why this one happened is because in other instances, those individuals were thwarted, but this time they screwed up. It's a possibility. However, based on my understanding of security, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, and it doesn't require a whole lot. Now, I'm sure the argument from the media is going to be that Tim Pool's a crazy conspiracy theorist for even entertaining the idea, and they're going to try to imply that I'm saying that the entirety of Secret Service, FBI, and whoever else, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying one person in some kind of official capacity simply says, I'm going to do the plan for this, guard this perimeter, but forgets to assign someone to the building. It is that simple. I worked security at a venue once, and the guy who ran security knew the layout of where the security guards were. The individual security guards did not. The only thing I knew was that I had a door to my right, and I was to make sure nobody walked through it. I had no idea where anyone else was. I had a radio if something happened, and that was it. So understand this. If the man working security at that venue wanted something to happen, he need only not assign a security guard. That's not necessarily a conspiracy, right? It's one guy saying, if I don't put a guard at that door, anyone can sneak in. And if they knew that people were casing the joint because they wanted to, he could make that happen. I take a look at this instance with Donald Trump and how this went down. And you mean to tell me that they didn't secure the building with a line of sight to the president? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. That's the first place to put someone. The first place. Now, why was it that nobody called it on the radio and warned the president? Again, it doesn't need to be every single person. It just needs to be confusion in the ranks. Certainly it's possible. At the administrative level, in the official capacity, someone's bad at their job. But considering everything we've seen targeting Trump and otherwise, I find it hard to believe that's the simple solution. Occam's razor, in the absence of evidence, the solution that makes the least amount of assumptions tends to be the correct one. Are we to assume that every law enforcement officer failed, the entire security assessment failed, that the warnings were like all of those things lined up? It is possible. But I don't think it's simple. I think it's much more simple that people have been screaming that Donald Trump needs to be stopped, eliminated. He's been threatened before. Someone tried to go and kill Kavanaugh and his family, and they were stopped by law enforcement. But someone did try to do that. Why? Why does it? I don't know. It's a coin toss because I really don't know. I really, really don't know. I want to know. I know all of you do too. I don't know. Some people have questioned the Secret Service agents who were staring down the man on the rooftop. I do not blame the individual law enforcement or Secret Service on this regard. There's a very important distinction between the Secret Service agents who should have pulled Trump off the stage. There's deep criticism for those who should have just said into their radios, we got a guy on the roof. Get Trump down now. False alarm or otherwise. But an excellent point was made as to why the Secret Service on the roof did not just shoot the man. Now, some have said it's because we're not there was an interesting post. They said, we're not in Afghanistan. We're not in Afghanistan. You don't just shoot a guy you see. Secret Service doesn't know what's going on with this guy. There was someone who posted on Twitter saying that they were in combat in the Middle East, and they were staring at what they thought was some kind of person or a shadow for about 30 seconds before a bullet started getting shot at. Some people believe the Secret Service agent should have just opened fire as soon as they saw somebody on their roof that may have had a gun. But think about the political climate we're in. A Secret Service agent gunning some random guy down and he's holding a mop or something. Who knows? The bigger problem was that Secret Service did not secure a rooftop, which was obvious to everybody that it should have been secured. A football field, just over a football field away from the direct line of sight for the president. The front runner for the 2024 election, a former president. We call him the honorific title, Mr. President. But what about in those few seconds when they did open fire and they ended this man? The important thing that I think a lot of people may have missed, and this has been reported now, is they thought it was a cop. Secret Service thought they had law enforcement on the roof. So when they saw someone that they couldn't quite make out wearing strange clothes with a weapon, they're thinking to themselves, what is that? because law enforcement was supposed to have secured the roof like they always would have in any normal circumstance. So these guys watching out for the president, the explanation we've been given so far is they thought it was local law enforcement. And as soon as they realized it wasn't, they ended him. So the question then remains, how was there no law enforcement on that building? It doesn't make sense. It's too easy to say they made a whoopsie daisy. That's too easy. It does not make sense. Oh, man. I've been in way too many places during riots, even covering news, just sitting in my room watching the internet. And all of you know this. Go to Washington, D.C., and there are snipers on rooftops. Tell me how, and make it make sense. It's convenient, isn't it? Whoops. I'll tell you where I lean. And then we'll talk about the left's conspiracy theories and things like that. And then I do want to make sure we'll read many of your super chats, and I want to talk about the leftist activist response and Destiny response. Man, I'll tell you what I think. About a week, 3 weeks ago, how long has it been? Brandon Strzok of the Walkaway campaign came on Timcast IRL. This was several weeks ago because Trump was supposed to be sentenced on July 11th to prison in New York, just before the start of the RNC, which is happening right now. And I asked Brandon Strzok, do you think Donald Trump will be, or I don't know exactly how the conversation flowed, but the question came up, will Donald Trump go to prison? Excuse me. And I said, I don't think so. I think house arrest. It's the logical move. They put an ankle bracelet on this so you can't leave your house. You're stuck in New York City. You can't campaign. You can't go to the RNC. And Brandon said, I hate to be the black-pilled guy here, but they're going to put him in prison. Why would they do that? They have done everything in their power to go 100% at Trump the entire step of the way. Democrats, the members of the FBI, the DOJ have done everything in their power to go after Donald Trump. Why would they stop now? And immediately I said, you're right. You're right. I've made a similar argument. Where's the off-ramp? Why would they stop now? What is the logic behind deciding now's where we draw the line? So I agree with Brandon Strzok. The move was to put Trump in prison in an orange jumpsuit. I mean, they're posting insane comments, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, over and over and over again. But something happened. Supreme Court ruled in a way that many of us didn't expect. Now, we expected presidential immunity to a certain degree. Will Chamberlain nailed this, saying they're going to say the president has immunity for constitutional and official duties, and they're going to throw back the question of whether Trump was engaged in official duties to a lower court, which is what they did. They did something else. The Supreme Court added that official actions can also not be used as evidence of wrongdoing. Thus, when they convicted Donald Trump in New York, citing actions he took in his official duty as president, it calls into question the validity of the trial under the Supreme Court's interpretation of the Constitution and presidential authorities. And for this, sentencing was postponed. They intended to put Trump in prison, but their lawfare failed. The result? The most extreme action would be taken. I'm not saying it's a 100% certainty. I'm saying it's an interesting chain of events. That Trump, who is supposed to be in prison on the 11th, was instead at a rally in PA where security failed in every conceivable way. And I mean it, every conceivable way. They didn't secure a building with a direct line of sight to the president. They let the man get several shots off. They didn't heed the warnings of the public. In every possible circumstance where security could have failed, it did. Congratulations. You won the lottery several times in a row. I don't know for sure. And again, I know the media is going to say, oh, Tim Pool's a conspiracy theorist. He's just asking questions, blah, blah, blah. Spare me. I don't care. I don't care what you think. I love puzzles. I love connecting the dots. I love, doing finding the patterns and reading the math. And I can't understand this. The only thing I can see is Democrats screaming for years, every lie imaginable, claiming Trump's a traitor to this country, that he's working for the Russians, that he's an existential threat, that he has to be stopped. I see these several other attempts that have been made on his life. I see a president who they have waged lawfare against relentlessly and endlessly. I see the predictions of Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson saying, this is the track we are on. And the media saying they're crazy, they're crazy, they're crazy, it'll never happen. And then it does. And who am I supposed to believe now? Tucker Carlson, who got it right, who lined up all the pieces and said, this is what's going to happen. We have to stop. We have to stop this. Or the people who have been screaming to the high heavens that Trump is an existential threat, who raided his home, and in the FBI warrant, they had the authority to use lethal force at Mar-a-Lago, and the media lied and said, no, they didn't. It was actually just a standard procedure. So they did? Remember this. When they raided Mar-a-Lago, they had the authority to use lethal force. Secret Service would have been with Trump. They had a contingency for what to do if Trump had arrived when they were raiding his property. Now they're doing this when Joe Biden also had classified documents and didn't do the same thing. I'm sorry, I can't look at all of the puzzle pieces and just wash them away and say, what a strange coincidence all this happened. Again, I'm not saying I know what happened. I'm saying, at the bare minimum, it seems like someone in an official capacity, and let me explain what that means. It means that a single guy who works in some office somewhere, who hates Trump, took it upon himself to make a phone. Let's say the bare minimum. He goes, "Oh, hey, John, they're stationing you on the roof. Actually, we got a reassignment for you. Yeah, because they're going to send someone else. We got locals who will be there. Why don't you go around the back?" It may have been that simple. But you tell me how all security failed on that day. It is, but by the grace of God. And for those that don't believe in God, luck. It's hard to believe him. That Donald Trump turned his head to the right to point at a chart. So the bullet went through his ear. If his head was pointed straight, right to the side of his head. We are all so lucky. Not everybody is lucky. Donald Trump's shooting raises lots of questions, former FBI official. I'll wrap up this portion of this portion of the stream with this. From Newsweek. Frank Figliucci, former assistant director of the FBI counterintelligence, told Newsweek that it hasn't yet been determined which agency was responsible for securing the rooftop overlooking the rally. The U.S. Secret Service used the phrase zero failed to describe their mission. Saturday's incident was not a good day for the service. Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee, was speaking at a rally. We know what happened. What a brave man. The former president was seen grabbing his right ear. They go on to mention a little bit more. The investigation into what failed will have to include how someone could get on a rooftop with a rifle within easy sniper range without being stopped. If that rooftop was outside the hard perimeter, why? If that building was delegated to local or state police, why didn't they secure that building or rooftop? Lots of questions and no answers. The lone actor or a small cell of independent actors is nearly impossible to thwart. Look for the FBI and the Secret Service to knock and talks with suspects to disrupt them from traveling, he said. Now I'll say this. Again, I don't know that anyone in an official capacity had anything to do with this. But it is strange that the roof was allowed to be left open. Let's say that a local police officer was instructed to guard that rooftop, and that's why he was there, and that's why he confronted the guy. Then we do have our answer. When this guy was climbing on the roof, and the cop who was supposed to be securing it saw the rifle, he ran away. It may be that simple. It's just so hard to believe, Again, I'll stress, I honestly don't know. They say the lone actor has always been the greatest challenge for counterterror and law enforcement agencies. We live in a free society where law enforcement does not routinely monitor all communications or social media, or do we want them to? In this shooting, there's no indication yet that the shooter was openly threatening the former president, nor even that he is known to law enforcement. A lot of people are saying that this guy, he's got no social media presence. He's a young man with no social media, weird political alignments that don't make sense, donating to this party, Just seems weird to everybody. I can only conclude that I don't know. But at least that's what people think. I will say my main point is it's hard to believe that this was the actions of a lone shooter who got lucky. It makes no sense. I guess there's one thing I could say. You know, I'm here at the RNC, and there is security like crazy. My team's been told that security is being upped. To what degree, we don't know. It may be an administrative background check thing. That's all it may be. I don't know if they're bringing in more personnel. No idea. But it was crazy to me as I'm walking around, like, you know, we're in Milwaukee at the RNC. It's like there's so many people here, and I'm just walking down the street. I'm certainly not a president, but I was just thinking about how open everything really is and how hard it really is to secure things. Well, my friends, we've got a lot more to talk about, but I'm going to wrap this portion up as a specific segment. So smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you like it. Follow me on X. A lot of people were asking, why didn't you go live over the weekend, Tim? Because we were traveling to the RNC. Some people said, use your phone. I'm like, oh, fair point, I guess. I don't know. But I was very much reporting and speaking on X where I could. We didn't have the studio set up. And honestly, were we back at home, we would have had Timcast IRL live that moment. And I was talking to the crew about it. But here we are. Had just arrived in Milwaukee that morning. And I flew Saturday morning. We got here a couple hours before this happened. The crew had just arrived with the gear, and we were just relaxing. I'll be completely honest. I was hanging out at Potawatomi Casino, playing poker with the boys. There was nothing set up. Half the people hadn't even shown up yet because it's the weekend. And no one expected that to happen. But of that photo of Donald Trump, I will say, the man across from me as we were playing, the moment this goes down, me and there's a politician, local rep. We saw these photos. The guy across from me looked at that photo of Trump raising his fist, and he's like, right alongside Iwo Jima. The last thing I'll say in this, wrap this portion up. Why was I at Potawatomi? For one, it's fun. I enjoyed doing it. It was a weekend. I didn't expect this to happen, and I didn't have any equipment with me, and I honestly didn't really know what to do, but I was tweeting like crazy. But the other thing is, a lot of these RNC big shots were there throwing money around, and I wanted to see who was doing it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy myself. I take time off when I take time off, and I enjoy the game. Yeah, I got no easy answers. Perhaps I could do better. I don't know. I did what I did. Do what I can. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. We've got a lineup of great guests throughout this week here at the RNC. It's going to be crazy. I'm very worried. I'm very scared. I'm scared for all of you. I'm scared for all these politicians. There was a conversation about leaving. The moment this went down, I talked with some of the crew saying, do we pack up and fly back now? Security risks are too high. I mean, they tried to take the life of Donald Trump. But we decided to stay. Part of it was, yeah, I said, we need to have a live show up right now with the crew. Bang, bang, bang. We couldn't do it. And talked to a few people and we decided to stay. It may be safer. But let's do this. I'm going to wrap this segment up. I've got more segments to record. We're going to keep going live if you're watching live, so stick around. And this portion of the show will go up at 1. But I've got a few more segments to talk about. We'll just keep it live because this is a special report. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you at the next segment. And for all of you that are still watching live, we'll just move on to the next bit here. Really great comments from Dan Bongino that I mentioned earlier about the failures of Secret Service. Questions raised by former Army sniper Congressman Corey Mills, I think, are really, really important. Shock poll finds 2/3 of Americans expect more political violence in the wake of the Trump shooting. 1968 all over again. You know it. But I want to talk about this man, Corey Comperatore. And I want to just give a special few minutes to this guy before we move on to the next segment. This guy's a hero. Taylor Hansen tweeted this on the day of when news broke. The Trump rally attendee who was murdered yesterday by Matthew Crooks has been identified as Comperatore. A family member has released a statement on their Facebook page about the situation. Prayers up for Corey and his family. Millions of dollars have already been raised for the victims. I want to read for you the statement from his daughter. I know many of you have already seen it, but I have a lot to say. And I think reading her statement again is good. It's important. Sure, yesterday time stopped. And when it started again, my family and I started living a real-life nightmare. What was supposed to be an exciting day that we'd all looked forward to, especially my dad, turned into the most traumatizing experiences someone could imagine. I know the media will cover this event, and I'm going to try my best to stay away from looking at everything, especially because I've already seen and lived through it in real time. But I want everyone to know what the media will not cover and will not say about him. He was the best dad a girl could ever ask for. My sister and I never needed for anything. You call, he would answer, and he would do whatever it is you needed. And if he didn't know, he would figure it out. He could talk and make friends with anyone, which he was doing all day yesterday and loved every minute of it. He was a man of God, loved Jesus fiercely, and also looked after our church and our members as family. The media will not tell you that he died a real-life superhero. They're not going to tell you how quickly he threw my mom and I to the ground. They're not going to tell you that as he shielded my body from the bullet that came at us, he loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us. And I want nothing more than to cry on him and tell him thank you. I want nothing more than to wake up and for this to not be the reality for me and my family. We lost a selfless, loving husband, father, brother, uncle, son, and friend, and I will never stop thinking about him and mourning over him until the day that I die too. July 13th will forever be a day that changed my life. I will never be the same person I was less than 24 hours ago. There are a lot of children out there that say their dad is a hero, but my dad really is mine. I don't think I would be here today without him. Dad, I love you so much that there aren't enough words to express how deeply the love goes. I know you'll give heaven some hell. I know that God is proud of the man that came to his gates yesterday. When I started the stream, I didn't say his name. And it's because I didn't know if I'd be able to talk about what happened without crying. So I decided to wait. It's tough. I find it funny that all these red pill guys, they say, never cry in front of your woman. If you're a man, you never cry. Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes a firefighter, a good man, throws himself over his family to save their lives. And there's a reason why men cry. Because we all wish. We think to ourselves that if the time came, we would be as brave as Corey was. And we don't know. We don't. I know most of you have asked yourself that question. Do you have it in you to stare death in the face because you have to? He did. Without thought. Without thought. He just did. He didn't hesitate. It's very likely that had he not covered his family, it would have been one of them. I do feel like most men would handle it without hesitation. And I remember talking about this similar story on Timcast IRL once. About someone, a man who, I can't remember the exact story. It's been so many years, so many conversations. I remember thinking about this, why a man would do it. And there was a great point made. I think it was a 4chan post, to be honest. Someone said, men do it because it hurts more to lose your loved one than it does to get shot. Certainly, you don't want to die. But surviving when your child dies or your wife is more painful. It's tough, right? Because with security issues, there's a lot of people who ask about, I don't know, like we talk about these situations with death, and it's hard on the people who survive. They have to feel that pain forever. But I feel like that's why Corey did it. It's why so many others do it. Men and women who are willing to throw themselves on the grenade figuratively and literally. In that instant, when their life stops, they do it because you get to feel that pain. You get to. For at least one more day, hopefully a lot longer. When I read the story, I wondered to myself, what's next? You know, what happens beyond this life? I don't know. Many of you believe and have faith. I certainly believe in God. I don't know exactly what happens when you die. Some people claim to know. Some people have died and then have told their experiences. I like to imagine that there's something beautiful waiting for him. That he's, my first thought was that a man like him finds himself at the gates of Valhalla with all the other great men of sacrifice patting him on the back, telling him that he did what he had to do. He was a good man. But it's too celebratory. I don't like that idea. I'd imagine he's still sad. Wherever he may be, wherever he's gone. And, I was thinking about this, and I wanted to say something on X when I heard the story. But I didn't exactly know how to phrase it. Because the right way to describe it is not that any guy hopes for something like this. Certainly they don't. But there is something they hope for. They have it in them. And I was thinking, is the word jealousy? I don't think it's the right word. It's not the right word. That's too negative. It's too mean. Certainly no one is jealous of these circumstances. But there is some kind of feeling where you're like, I wish I could be as brave as he was. And I hope when the time comes, I will be. It's sad, really. I believe the last post from this guy was a response to Cat Turd saying he was going to the rally. And he got to stand behind Donald Trump to watch him speak. What an amazing opportunity. What an amazing day. I know people are chatting saying, Valhalla, what are you talking about? I meant that figuratively, not literally. I don't think the guy's literally going to Valhalla. I don't believe Valhalla is a real thing. It's a representation of going to the afterlife where you are celebrated for being the best you could have been. The gates of heaven, golden pearly gates where they welcome you in and say you are the embodiment of what we'd hoped you'd be. I don't know. That's sad, man. I wish the family the best. And I hope everybody can be like him, Nutmeg Donkey, good name. He says, I believe the word you're looking for is reverence. Reverence is a good word. But I also want to stress that there's a reverence is a great word, but there's also a touch of want. You know what I mean? We revere these actions. These are right. It's exalted. Another way to describe it. But the point is that we want to believe we could do the same. I watched a video. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a family was having dinner when a big wave crashed or something, smashed the glass, and the dad just runs away from the family. There was one where an avalanche happened too, and a guy sitting at dinner with his family, and he just gets up and runs for it. And I was like, whoa, we don't want to be that. We don't. But let's talk about this. There's another conspiracy theory, my friends. There's another conspiracy theory, and we'll pull this one up for you. We have this story. We have the story from the Washington Post. Blue Anon conspiracy theories flood social media after Trump rally shooting. By Taylor Lorenz. This story from yesterday afternoon. Researchers who track online conspiracies say liberals are increasingly vulnerable to and generating QAnon-like bursts of misinformation. Boy, is that an understatement. They've always been, they always do, but thank you, Taylor Lorenz, for writing this story. Of all people, right? Blue Anon. You've got the Washington Post embracing the idea. Let me tell you the reality of what we know. A man climbed on a roof with a clear line of sight to the president, current frontrunner for the presidency, but not the current president, shot him, narrowly missing his brain, but hitting his ear, so Trump was shot in the head, striking several people behind him, killing a man who saved his family. That happened. There are conspiracies about whether or not this man was allowed to do it, questions about how he was able to get on the rooftop. None of it seems to make a whole lot of sense. It's possible a crazy person did a crazy thing. It really is. It's hard to believe, though. It really is hard. I'll tell you what's the stupidest thing, and what is just plainly false, is the conspiracy theory that Donald Trump staged this. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But many on the left immediately started posting on X that this was staged. In fact, the word staged was trending just below. I kid you not. Taylor Lorenz, again, of all people, writes, minutes after Saturday's shooting at the Trump rally in Butler, PA, liberals began flooding social media platforms with conspiracy theories. They claimed the blood on former President Trump's ear was a theatrical gel pack, that the shooting was a false flag, perhaps coordinated by the Secret Service in collaboration with the Trump campaign, that the scene of a bloodied Trump raising his fist under an American flag was staged. Amazing. Quote, when did the Secret Service start allowing the president under duress to tell them to wait, then stand up to be seen by the crowd fist pumping? One user posted. Can you blame me for thinking this is fake? I can. The shooting threw into overdrive a phenomenon dubbed Blueanon, a play on the right-wing conspiracy theory QAnon. It refers to liberal conspiracy theories as more Americans lose trust in mainstream institutions and turn to partisan commentators and influencers for information. Experts say they are seeing a big uptick in the manufacture and spread of Blueanon conspiracy theories, a sign that the communal warping of reality is spreading well beyond the right. Well, I'll pause you there, Taylor. It's been this way for a long time. We've all seen it. We all know it. It's only now that after Donald Trump was literally shot in the side of his head and survived, plain for everyone to see, and a man died, several others injured, you don't fake that. They think Trump planned it? He got shot. Oh, it was a gel pack. Then explain the other bullets. There are people who are there who are posting it. They filmed what happened. Certainly, I think the idea that just a man climbed onto a building with no security around and it certainly is fishy. That I agree with. But that Trump was in on it is the stupidest thing ever. She goes on to write, the shooting threw into overdrive Blueanon. The good versus evil paradigm of QAnon has really taken hold of the anti-Trump movement, and you're seeing two sides that feel like they are fighting a battle between good and evil, said Mike Rothschild, author of The Storm is Upon Us, How QAnon Became a Movement, Cult, and Conspiracy Theory of Everything. It's coming from major leftist and liberal resistance influencers who believe that Trump is so devious that he'd fake his own assassination attempt in order to help his campaign. That theory was boosted by at least one influential Democrat, Dimitri Melhorn, a political advisor to Democratic donor Reid Hoffman, encouraged supporters in an email late Saturday to consider the possibility, quote, possibility which feels horrific and alien and absurd in America, but is quite common globally, that this shooting was encouraged and maybe even staged so Trump could get the photos and benefit from the backlash. He added, not one newspaper or opinion leader in America is willing to openly consider the possibility that Trump and Putin staged this on purpose. Ask the question, people. Putin? Holy crap, man. Holy crap. On Sunday, Melhorn apologized, saying he now regrets the email and that he drafted and sent it without consulting team members or allies. In a text to the Washington Post, Melhorn wrote, we must unite in condemnation of such violence in every instance without reservation. Any other topic is a distraction. No, come on. You're going to say, but Tim, you entertained a conspiracy theory that there was some official capacity here. Well, hold on. Me saying that I think like someone working security left their post and wanted this to happen at minimum is a far cry from saying Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump staged him getting shot in the ear and killing, and literally they killed, like, no, sorry, that's ridiculous. I'm saying that I don't think it is so easy for a random guy to put up a ladder, climb a building, bear crawl to the front while people are screaming a warning, and then get direct line of sight to the president without someone in an official capacity walking away or wanting something like that to happen. And I'm not saying it literally did happen. I am just saying ask questions. But my questions are not about a top-down. I don't believe that the highest levels of the FBI organized this. I don't believe that the Democrat Uniparty was organizing any of this stuff. I'm saying that it could just be as simple as one crazy person thinking they got to do this, right? But I do think there is a simple answer. Law enforcement encountered the guy on a rooftop. This has been reported, and he ran away. It doesn't explain a lot. And I find it hard to believe that every single security apparatus failed on this day. I really do. I just don't think that's logical. But I certainly don't think that Biden or Putin or Hillary or anybody I just, everybody wants to believe that, right? Possible. Like, is there a possibility of Putin and Trump? Sure. It's just stupid to entertain that stuff. Like, I think that we start from the simplest explanations. We try to form a hypothesis, and that is, I don't think the simple solution is a crazy guy just was able to get in a building because there is a major security failure here. I don't think it's so simple to say that security failed in every possible way here because it's too many coincidences. Every different layer of security breaking makes no sense. But the simplest starting point is that someone in official capacity didn't assign someone properly, knew they were leaving holes, things like that, which still requires a crazy person to do a crazy thing. But again, man, I don't know. We'll read more. She writes, well, Blue Anon claims bear no resemblance to the most lurid elements of QAnon, which involve false allegations of Satan worship and pedophilia among liberal elites. You're going to have to elaborate on that one because those things do happen, but I'm wondering if you're allowed to say some of them are false. I'm not going to falter for that. But the question is, please elaborate because some of it is true. You know, like Epstein is literally like a real thing that happened. Y'all can't come out and scream Trump was cavorting with Epstein and then claim the Epstein thing's not real. They're going to say they do echo the QAnon theory that a secret deep state cabal is working to take down Trump. In Blue Anon world, shadowy forces, including the mainstream media, are working to destroy President Biden's candidacy and usher Trump back into power on November 5th. Carl Folk, a researcher studying authoritarianism and radicalization at Augsburg University in Minneapolis, said this more conspiratorial mindset has become more pronounced in liberal circles over the last 8 months. Initially coined by conservative social media users in 2021 to mock news coverage as overblown, such as investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 election, the term Blue Anon has since been used by people across the political spectrum to describe particularly outlandish conspiracies and denialism from Biden supporters. The term took on a new meaning and prominence last month after Biden's disastrous performance during a primetime debate with Trump on CNN sparked a battle over Biden's fitness for office, including calls from many Democrats for the 81-year-old president to step aside. Now, I must stress, my friends, a lot of the posts now are saying it doesn't matter who the Democrat nominee is. Trump can't lose. There's a viral TikTok going around where it's this woman doing a bit where she's like, Donald Trump survived. And they're like, wow. It's like, and unfortunately, he looked really cool doing it. And then she's like, how does he look? It's like she's playing two roles, right? How do you look cool getting shot at? Well, and then she goes, it's not like he fell to the ground, then stood right back up with blood streaming down his face, raising his fist, screaming, USA, USA, USA to a crowd of thousands that joined in. Yeah, that's literally what he did. We're going to lose, aren't we? Yeah. They would have loved it if Donald Trump fell to his knees and then ran away terrified, huddled with security guards, his hair all messed up, his shoes falling off, looking frantic and scared. They would have loved it. They, as in the people who hate Trump. Instead, Trump pushed his way through, raised his fist up with blood on his face, and he said, fight, fight, fight. And CNN got mad at him over it. How about that one? Well, let's take a look at this one. We got this from Glenn Greenwald. The chief advisor to Reid Hoffman, the billionaire DNC megadonor and Russiagate conspiracy theorist. Look at the insanity, the mental pathology that the Democrat Party is its liberal cable outlets and the corporate press have fostered in countless brains. Just read this. You ready for this one? In an email Saturday at 7:34 p.m. that appeared to be addressed to sympathetic journalists and which was also sent to Semaphore, Melhorn wrote that one possibility which feels horrific and alien, I read this a moment ago, he says was encouraged and maybe even staged so Trump could get the photos and benefit from the backlash. This is a classic Russian tactic, such as when Putin killed 300 civilians in 1999 and blamed it on terrorists to ride the backlash to winning power. Others who have embraced this tactic of committing raw evil and then benefiting from the backlash include Hamas on October 7th. If any Trump officials encourage or knew this attack, that is morally horrific, and Republicans of decency must demand that Trump step down as unfit. Absolutely fascinating. I saw a hilarious tweet where someone said, Democrats are going to discover the words false flag really fast. And here they are. Morgan J. Freeman. No, not that Morgan Freeman, a different Morgan Freeman. Formerly verified Proud Dad TV producer. He says, why do I think Trump just faked an assassination attempt? I wonder why. Ian Mouse Chong highlighting this post from Tim Wise. He says that fist pump-ish after Trump was shot is too perfect. No way someone thinks to do that after an actual assassination attempt. It's what a MAGA scriptwriter would write, though. Ian Mouse Chong says Tim Wise, who is involved in DEI programs for Google, suggests that Trump staged the attempt on his life. If he was Alex Jones, he would be sued for $1 billion. Now, that's my favorite bit so far. That Donald Trump is going to sue all of these people who said it was staged. How about this? The family of Corey Comperatore. Everyone who says this was staged. Inciting violence. What's the difference? Sue them in Texas. See what they say. Man. I don't like any of that stuff. I didn't like it when Jones was talking about the conspiracies in Sandy Hook. It's like, dude, it's wild to me that you believe the government would orchestrate all of these things, these shootings, but that the victims would be in on it too. It's like, why would they do that? If there was a conspiracy to commit a shooting, they would want the aftermath, right? Like insert random shooting. I don't want to highlight a specific one, but like even in this one, the idea that they'd fake it, the idea that someone would say they're crisis actors or anything like that, it's like, dude, they don't need to fake it to that degree. If they wanted a shooting for the press, there can be real victims. So the question is not whether Donald Trump was in on this. I don't think Hillary Clinton was in on this. It's like, who and how did this happen? It really could be as simple as someone working security thought to themselves, what if I just tell that guy to back off? What if I just don't assign someone to this building? That's it. That's it. I'm not surprised that Democrats are pushing these lines. However, I am surprised to see many in the corporate press and mainstream, like Taylor Lorenz, calling them out. But let me tell you, my friends, this country has just changed in a dark way. But there is a net positive. Closed door, open window. Why will Donald Trump win from this? And I'll elaborate in a little bit after I wrap up this segment, but I just will stress. Regular people don't want this. They don't want conflict. They don't want violence. They don't want chaos. And in 2020, many of these people thought Donald Trump represented the chaos. Now it's plain to see Trump as a victim of it. And so if you want normalcy, you ain't getting it under Biden. Under Joe Biden, you're getting the assassination attempts of political leaders. That didn't happen under Donald Trump. As much as they tried to take him down, accusing him of being a Russian spy. So I'll wrap this one up there. My friends, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Follow me on X, at Timcast, and Instagram, at Timcast as well. I post a lot on X. A lot of breaking news when I can't be at the studio. So I recommend that you follow me there. I'll read some of your super chats now. We'll get some of your comments, so for those that are watching live, but again, subscribe to this channel, and then I've got more segments throughout the day. And again, we're live at 8 p.m. tonight with some guests from the RNC. So thanks for hanging out. If you're live, stay tuned. But for everyone else, next video will be coming up at, I believe it will be 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out. But let's read some super chats. An important one right here. Mark Giadetti says, Judge Cannon just dismissed Trump's document case. That's huge. Trump is winning across the board in terms of lawfare. So that's seriously big. All right, let's see. Noah Sanders says, Tim, I shared a post allegedly from the sniper who got the bad guy to X and tagged you. RGSJ and Bertman, he claimed that they didn't allow him to fire. I saw that. That's a 4chan post. I can't say that that we have any confirmation on that. Sean K says he's going to say Civil War in Minecraft. Well, only because, you posted it. And to be fair, as everyone wanted me to say Civil War, I wasn't the one saying it over the weekend. People were, prominent figures said we were a millimeter away from Civil War. And I'm like, I don't know. All right, the Music Anon says, for those on chat saying Tim is late on the news, welcome first-time viewers of Timcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that like button. Remember not to miss tonight's IRL. I know, I'm like, if you're mad that I was late, didn't do an emergency broadcast over the weekend, woof, you must be really mad that Timcast IRL is a Monday through Friday 8 p.m. show. My morning show is a Monday through Friday 10 a.m. show. And I don't know. I think it's fair to say I maybe could have taken my phone, walked outside, and just filmed myself for a little bit, but I didn't know what to say. News was breaking. I could have. Fair point. I don't know, man. I don't think like that. A lot of people did it. I was on Twitter, though. I was on X, and I was posting these things. That's where I thought the news would go out that mattered. Maybe I could. Maybe I could. All right. We'll grab a couple more, and then we've got some more for you. Talk about where the left is currently at. Democrat politicians supporting this is kind of wild. Jason Dixon says, Tim in 2020 ACAB. All good cops need to quit. Tim in 2024. WTF are these cops doing? Pulls hair out. Tim, you wanted this. You got cop derangement syndrome or something, or Tim derangement syndrome on it. I don't back the blue no matter who. I back the blue when they do good. I like cops that are elected, like sheriff's department. But we look at these big cities, and we're looking at cops that are communist. So I don't back the blue no matter who. And I won't say that now either. And we had a cop confront the shooter and then back away. I don't get your point, brother. I got no beef with cops. I like cops. I like the police department. I'm not some lefty who thinks we should abolish the police, and I'm certainly not some libertarian who thinks that policing should be all private. Well, I like the police department. I just think there are a lot of bad cops right now in communist areas. And if you back communists, it doesn't matter if they're wearing a badge or not. I Got Swag says you should have seen what Forbes deleted in their post. Trump might use his raised fist after being shot to appeal to black people. Jeez. Rock Braz says Bolsonaro was stabbed and almost died during the 2018 Brazilian campaign. To this day, leftists say it was faked. I know. And that was a deep stab. All right, let's grab a couple. I'll grab one more before we talk about the next bit here. And then we'll read it. We'll read a lot more of your super chats. Alex Fiala says, in the Secret Service presser yesterday, a spokesperson said, we do not feel we need to change security program for the RNC after failing on 7/13. Do you think they're being unserious or it's a honey trap? All I can say is that yesterday I got word from my crew that they did change security and there were some additional measures being put in place that we'd have to accommodate for. I don't know if I'm supposed to say exactly what the security is because it's security, so I won't. I don't know what it means. I don't know if there'll be any more people. No idea. That seems weird. Alex Apel says, Tim, we watched for accuracy, not punctuality. Well, I certainly think if we were back in fact, if we were at home in West Virginia, I would have run full speed into the studio and gone live by myself, called everybody and said, get here now. We're doing Timcast IRL special breaking report. I'm in a room in a hotel. We're in a conference room setting up for our week at the RNC. We've got a handful of guests. Everyone's in the area. It's going to be an absolutely informative and interesting week. Trump should be announcing his VP very soon. And we will be doing some special reports and visiting the RNC throughout the week. So we were just nowhere near equipped. It's crazy because, we're just hanging out. We were, getting food. I'm hanging out at the poker tables. Literally just recreation, guys. A lot of people wish that, I'm sitting in the news studio 24/7, but we had just gotten off a plane, dropped our stuff off. Seriously, it's a couple hours before this all went down. We landed. We drive to the hotel, we drop our stuff off, get cleaned up, got some food, checked the watch, asked how the crew is doing. If they're we're currently getting things set up. The crew wasn't yet here. We didn't even have a key to the hotel yet. And I get the news. And then people are like, pull out your phone. And I'm like, yeah, fair point. I could have done that. I just didn't think of it, I guess. I don't know. I was calling people, asking what was going on. We were checking security. It is what it is. It is what it is. What have we here? Usaho Moliv says, I was sweating when I realized Trump didn't pick a VP yet either. Almost pooped my pants when I saw it live. It's just so crazy. I want to stress this again. Another super chat, Freedom for All says, Judge tosses documents case against Trump, Jack Smith appointment unconstitutional. Huge news, man. We're going to have a big show for you guys. I want to jump to this story. We got this story from the New York Post. Lefties celebrate Trump shooting with tasteless social media posts about John Wilkes Booth. Close to being the best day ever. Shockingly insane. Yo, this is terrifying stuff. And most prominently, Destiny, the omni-liberal. A man who many have held up as a liberal willing to debate conservatives. And I will say this, Destiny, you've lost your mind. And I feel bad for you. I seriously do feel bad for you. I'm going to show you some posts that are shockingly offensive. Not that I think you guys care. We're all adults here. We can handle being offended. Here's a post from Andy No. Before I show you the most egregious actions of Destiny. He posts, as top staffer of a Mississippi Democratic congressman who introduced a resolution to strip Trump of Secret Service protection, wrote, she wished the shooter had better aim. Jacqueline Marsaw, saying she doesn't condone violence, but please get you some shooting lessons so you don't miss next time. Oops, that wasn't me talking. There are numerous videos of leftists saying the exact same thing, screaming, saying, how could you have missed? You want to believe that they don't really mean it. So something I said at the beginning of the live stream before the segment. People say he missed. I get it. He was aiming for Trump and he missed. But I don't like saying that because they hate all Trump supporters. And it's not even about Trump supporters. I don't view myself, I don't identify as this MAGA guy waving a flag. Yet I tweeted, if Donald Trump can take a bullet for you, you can take the time to go out and vote for him. There are a lot of things about Trump I do not like. But man, are we so far beyond this? I don't see myself as this diehard Trump supporter. I've got some serious criticisms. We bring libertarians on the show all the time to criticize him. It's just wild to see these people. They want all of us, even me, dead. Now, let me pause for a second. I'm not saying all Democrats. I'm not saying every vote. I'm not saying every American. I am saying there's a contingent of far leftists who are violent. There is a contingent, to whatever size that may be. I don't know. I don't believe that Ro Khanna is wishing for any violence on anybody. I certainly think there are Democrat politicians who want this to happen. I do. I think the most rank and file Democrat members of Congress and Democrats don't want this to happen. I don't think most people want violence or pain. And this is my point. The rock and the hard place position for Democrats is these people on the left are celebrating this. And Democrats must disavow. Joe Biden has pulled his attack ads, issuing a statement. In fact, my friends, you need to watch Biden's statement because he almost said, we need to make America great again. I'm not kidding. He said something like, and so we need to make America, make it as it used to be, as it should be. Something like that. Carpe Diem tweeted, he almost said make America great again. And I'm like, I caught that. Wow. Democrats don't want the violence. So what does that mean? They have to disavow this element of their voter base. They're going to lose votes. Frank Luntz, the pollster, was asked, and he put out a tweet thread saying, I'm getting inundated with media requests about what I think this will do to the polls. He said, so I'll just put a thread here. He said, there is no distinction anymore between a Trump voter and a Trump supporter. Every Trump supporter is now a Trump voter. And those that were maybe voting for Trump that weren't sure are now Trump supporters. He says this action can account for a 1 to 2 point bump in all polls that you won't see. That will manifest. You know, some people pointed out after Reagan was attacked, he wins a landslide. You know, I don't know. But let's talk about the most egregious example of mental breakdown. And that's Destiny, the omni-liberal. Destiny made a series of posts to his 252,000 followers. He tweeted, "A person in a crowd cheering for and supporting a traitor to his country caught astray. I'm so sad." Ian Miles Chong called it brain rot. He said, "I'm sure Corey and Babbitt are both having fun with each other in hell right now." Smiley face. Someone asked him if that's the hill he wanted to die, and he says, "Don't you mean the bleachers?" He's lost it. Here's a post from Reddit. Someone commented on Destiny's Reddit page saying, my friend's mom was right next to the guy who got killed. Destiny responded to him saying, "Don't ever come back and tell your friend and his mom to get effed." That's amazing, isn't it? I'll tell you what I think. I think Destiny, the omniliberal, is suffering a mental breakdown. I think it's unrelated to the events of Trump's rally. I think the man lost his wife. I don't know the full circumstance. I don't know exactly what happened, but those are the rumors going around. And I think he's in a deep depression because what he's doing doesn't endear him with his audience. It doesn't bolster his business. It doesn't advance his cause. It doesn't express any serious ideas. It's pure antagonism and shock that does nothing. Seems more that Destiny himself is deeply depressed and upset. So he's lashing out. Clint Russell, with quite honestly one of the best posts pertaining to the idea of democracy and Trump democracy and all of these things. Shout out to Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown Podcast. Guys, he made an excellent post and an excellent point I want you to hear. He posts. "So I just perhaps stupidly spent an hour in Spaces debating Destiny. First off, he's in a really bad place. No, I don't say that to elicit sympathy for him, just being honest. He repeatedly wrote off the loss of life yesterday and claimed with all sincerity that anyone who supports Trump is essentially subhuman, worthy of disdain, if not assault. The only worthwhile aspect of the discussion was when I challenged him on the following. You claim that Trump is a danger because he's a threat to democracy. 70 million people voted for him, and he's the favorite to be the next president. So why is democracy worth defending? The obvious self-defeating argument led him to acknowledge that, in fact, democracy is not an inherent good. It is the tyranny of the majority. If that majority is evil, then democracy is evil. I write all of this just to explain that the entire, quote, we must defend democracy talking point has literally nothing to do with democracy. It is simply about power. A verbal cudgel used entirely to justify their not even slightly veiled intention to dominate you. Remember that. Destiny the omniliberal, saying Trump's a threat to democracy. All of the Democrats and the media Democrats saying Trump is a threat to our democracy. Okay, Trump's up in the polls. Democracy has decided Trump should win. So what are you saying? I agree. I like democracy now. I love democracy because Trump's winning. Does that make sense to you? Doesn't make any sense at all. They don't have an actual argument, and Clint hit that one out of the park. So what are we seeing now? Why is Destiny lashing out, cheering for this death, mocking the victims, laughing about it? Again, I think he's probably just depressed over his wife or something. I mean, it was a little while ago, but life must not be so good. Something's deeply troubled inside of him. He's a deeply angry guy, solving nothing. But when we see all of these people say they want Trump harmed, they're telling you outright. When you see Democrat staffers, when these people on the left are outright just posting this stuff, celebrating it, they're not defending democracy. Trump's the front runner in the polls across the board. Democracy has not yet been done. It's not like a real democracy, it's a democratic election. But right now, if you want to defend democracy, you'd say, well, look, people want Trump. Instead, they're hoping that someone causes him great harm. That's the opposite of democracy. Right. They don't want democracy. And they've very simply proven it, haven't they? They certainly have, my friends. Now, my fear, I suppose, is how this escalates. And there's two worlds about it. It may get better. When this all went down, it's Saturday, we had just arrived. We had arrived a couple hours, a handful of hours before all this went down. We got to our hotel, we dropped our stuff off, we got some food, and like I said, I went to go hang out with the boys and play some good old 1-3 they got over at Potawatomi. One of the reasons I wanted to go is because I enjoy the game, it's recreational, and I have fun playing. But a lot of politicians They're throwing money around. That was interesting. And we did see a little bit of that. When the news broke, we had a conversation about leaving. Should we pack up and fly back right now? Security is going to be nuts. It's crazy. And I was leaning towards it. We spent a lot of money to come out here. It's very, very expensive. We didn't need to. But I think it's important. It's an important place to be. I will not be at the DNC because of the riots. I ultimately decided, no, we should stick around. Why? Well, I'm not so sure that things will get worse. They may get better. You know why? Sensible Democrats do not want violence. They just hate Trump. I mostly blame the media, but even if it's not, and you don't like him, you're allowed to not like the guy. Libertarians got a lot of criticisms. To be fair, a lot of the libertarians who do have now decided they're going to vote for him. Shout out to Jeremy Kauffman. Who else are you going to vote for? Chase Oliver? That's not happening. But anyway, a lot of criticisms for Trump. But here we are. Regular Democrats don't want to live in a world with extreme violence. It's scary. Sensible people in public don't want to admit that they're for it. It's scary. There's a viral video where a guy confronts a woman in Home Depot. I think it's a Home Depot. I'm not sure. And he asked her name, and she goes, yes. And he goes, you posted online, you wished the shooter had better aim. And she's like, I'm working. You don't want to say it in public, do you? You don't, do you? These people who go online and say these things will never admit it in public. And what does that mean? Maybe they'll vote for Biden in secret. Fine. But that means the media narrative shifts. And the default liberals who they hate Donald Trump for the wrong reasons because they're getting fake news. They are now going to be in a world where the media is saying, we're all MAGA now. So this shift in the polls for Trump is going to be bigger than we realize. Bigger than we realize. We got a lot going on today. The charges being dismissed against Trump. He's winning across the board. He survived. We are lucky. For this last segment, I'll just tell you, my friends, I was welling up when I saw Trump raising his fist. I felt fear for this country when I saw what had happened when it was going down. I felt pride when I saw that man stand up and raise his fist and say, fight, fight, fight. I love this country. And Donald Trump, what are they saying? He's built different. I'm more excited than ever to cast my vote for that man in a state where he's already going to win. I'm in West Virginia, baby, second most Trump supporting state in the country. I think Trump is an imperfect guy. I think he's done some bad things. I think it's very important we criticize him for those bad things. But he's my president. He's a strong president. He did the best job I've seen in my lifetime. And he will be our president again. Here's hoping. I'm going to wrap up this last segment. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show. Become a member at Timcast.com. I imagine the members' call-in show tonight after IRL is going to be very, very interesting. And when you're a member at Timcast.com, you're supporting all of this and allowing us to be here. 6 figures. More than 6 figures it costs to get the crew, to build the studio, to get down here, to get the convention, the conference space. It's not even the biggest or best conference space, but they're doing right by us, so I appreciate it. And we have to fly everybody out. Some people had to drive. We have some sponsors for the night. Shout out to Vault Drinks. Shout out to Mike Lindell and My Pillow. We're very grateful for their support and helping make this happen. I think we'll still make a little bit of a loss in all this, but the reality is we do this not because we are looking forward to buying a Ferrari or anything like that. It's because this is it. This is what you do. This is what you buy. When you have the opportunity, when people support you and they give you money, you go on the mission. Not everybody does, but at least we do here at Timcast. And if you want to see us do it, become a member at Timcast.com, because that membership is what brings us here to the RNC, to be here at this most pivotal moment. Thanks for watching this segment. For those that are watching live, stick around. I got some super chats for you to read, and we'll see you all tonight, 8 p.m., youtube.com/TimcastIRL. And for everybody who's hanging out, we got about 17 more minutes. I can get you some super chats in and have a little bit more conversation. Part of me really wants that Corey Comperatore segment to be its own standalone. I thought about it. I don't want to do something for the views. I thought it'll be in the live stream. It'll be buried. When I started the stream, I didn't say his name right away Because as I said before, I don't know if I could do it without crying. And it's tough. Legend. My thoughts and prayers for the family. I just wanted it to mean it to be real. So, but I saw that story. I saw that man. And the first thing I thought was, I hope to be 10% of the man that Corey was. 10%. And if the time comes, that I will answer accordingly, as he did. That is what a father should be. That is what a man should be. To exemplify to all of us. It may be a little bit silly. But I've talked about the story of the noble rooster. And it's meant to be silly. It's meant to be fun and funny. But there's a reason why I tell this story. For those that don't have chickens at home and who think it is silly, there's a reason why I use this as an example. Roosters sacrifice their lives for their hens. It's a known fact. They will run full speed at a raccoon or a fox, knowing they're going to die, hoping they won't, I don't know. And they're just silly little birds. They're goofy little things. They're silly. They don't matter. Only a little bit, right, for our farms and for breakfast. Or a good chicken sandwich, whatever you like. And I point out how we mock the chicken as silly, absurd, and we call people chicken to represent something negative. And here you got these little dudes going to end their lives to save their families. And there are so many humans who would never do that. Corey exemplifies nobility and what it means to be a man more so than 99% of people. I hope that we can raise a generation of men to hold those values. I seriously do. Let's grab some more super chats from you guys. Let's go. We'll move back a little bit. The Clapper of Cheeks says, Trump told Brett Baer, VP announcement today. I'm thinking J.D. Vance. I am. Rumor is that U.S. government vehicles arrived at his home or something like that. I don't know. But now I'm also hearing Marco Rubio rumors. Ooh, oh boy, everyone's so excited. So excited. Shadapar says he trained or was instructed on an indoor range, hence he didn't allow for wind. We got lucky. Some people have asked, how could the guy have missed? Well, it's easy. He's aiming at Trump. He's adrenaline pumping. He's scared. Trump turns his head and is moving and pointing at a sign, and he almost got Trump. He actually did get Trump. He just didn't end Trump. So people are wondering, like, how did Trump survive this is the bigger question. Grateful Trump recounts surreal assassination attempt supposed to be dead, he said. He missed because Trump moved about 10 seconds before. I think it's like 10 seconds he moves and he's pointing at a chart. And if he didn't turn his head, that's crazy. And then some other people pointed out that the guy fired several times. How did he miss? Well, clearly you've never gone to a range. You can aim down the sights and take a shot and hit it. But the average person panicking and just pulling the trigger is just spraying randomly. Grateful for Donald Trump and it's rough days ahead of us, man. Hopefully this causes the pot to stop boiling over. I thought about this and I said, hopefully this is the shock to the system that makes all these default libs just halt in their tracks. Biden pulled his campaign ads. Hopefully this puts them in a position where they say, guys, we can't do this. You've got to stop. The left won't. The far left won't. But if default liberals say, I ain't speaking up like that. I did not want this. Then maybe we see the off-ramp here in the worst of ways. But still, an off-ramp. Mr. Vamp says, I wonder how many people learned about this through the in-game radio on Euro Truck Simulator. Is that real? I'll tell you what was fascinating to me is that, as I mentioned, I was at Potawatomi. It's right downtown. Beautiful place, by the way. Great steakhouse. No one knew. Literally no one. It was like there was a local politician sitting at my table and we were talking politics a little bit. And both our phones instantly. And I look over at him and I'm like, dude. And he's like, I know. It was wild. Everyone else was like, what's happening? The TVs kept playing sports. And I thought to myself, I asked the guy, I was like, how come the TVs didn't just turn to the breaking news report that the front runner for our election was nearly killed? And they're like, it's sports. We don't want to change it. And I'm like, that is nuts to me. That should have been a moment in my mind where on the PA, they said, ladies and gentlemen, we hate to interrupt your fun and entertainment, but there has been an attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump, the current frontrunner. We will be displaying this on TV displays now for those that would like to know more. They didn't do any of that. Literally no one knew. Bumped into one guy and he's like, I heard, someone who knew the show. It's like, nice to meet you. We're all talking about it. Nobody else. They just went along with their lives. Blissful ignorance. Let's grab some more super chats here. We got about 10 minutes. Vox Darkstar says, not sure if this has been said yet, that fight from Trump had big Teddy Roosevelt energy. Trump's incredible. Even Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks called him a badass. And I'm like, he's right. See, look, Cenk may say crazy things from time to time, but he does this every so often. When you can't deny it, he gets things wrong, but he's right, and they don't want to hear it. His fans don't want to hear it, but he's right. I can tell you, man, Joe Biden wants to abolish these overdraft fees for ATMs, and I'm like, that's a good thing. I ain't going to deny it. And then people say, yeah, well, so what? And I'm like, that's fine. You can say so what. But if I like the idea, I like the idea. I don't like the guy, but I like the idea. Poor people getting their paycheck gets deposited, and they go to the grocery store and they think they've got they know their account. They buy a cheeseburger, overdraft them, charge them $35. Then their check drops, and then they get another $35 fee because the next day rolls over. Their paycheck's $70 behind. Now they can't afford health insurance or gas. None of that. That's BS. If you don't got the money in your account, reject the transaction. That's BS. And if you want to give leeway, then put them negative and don't give them a fee over it. So I agree with Biden on that, right? But Cenk said, how can you deny it? If you're an honest person and you don't like Trump, you have to admit he looked like a badass, surviving with blood coming on his face, yelling, fight. Like I said before, they would have loved it if he ran from the stage, frantic, shaking. They'd have loved it. In their minds, that's who he is. But we know better because we actually pay attention. They say all these bad things about Trump, but the way they depict him is tiny hands, scared and frail and cowardly, and in fact, he's quite the opposite. After taking a bullet to the side of his head, surviving with a hole in his ear, he stands up and yells, fight, with his fist raised. There's a reason the guy's a billionaire, my friend. There's a reason he's a billionaire. All right. We'll grab a couple more. Bentelligent 1776 says the Hava and Motor Voter Act, Dr. Douglas Frank, models Dr. X on X, knows everything about the topic and how to fix our elections. Please have him on IRL. I have his presentation on my X at Bentelligent76. Right on. We got C-Dub, big super chat. Thank you, saying thanks. Thank you, Tim, and the crew for all you do. Really do appreciate it. I'm loving all the super chats saying the classified document case is dismissed. What are they saying? That he didn't have the constitutional authority for the appointment? That was one of the big arguments. Let's see what they do if they appeal. They have tried everything in their power to stop this man, and they can't. So the one thing I got to say is, don't count your chickens, okay? I don't see them stopping. What do you mean by them? Those who hate Trump. It's a broad statement. I don't know. I'm not saying that Democrat forces or authorities are involved in the attempt on Trump's life. I don't know that. But this crazy guy is part of the group that are willing to do everything to stop Trump. Someone. Look, what my mind says to me is the likely scenario, the simple solution is that someone working security for the Secret Service intentionally left that building open. That's it. Didn't coordinate with the shooter, didn't plan it, didn't arm him, didn't do any of that stuff. They just said, if we leave something open, maybe. That's what it really feels like. Because I don't understand how that could have happened. Just dominoes falling over of security failures just doesn't make sense. Because I've seen this security. I'm looking at it now. We've got security. Like, this doesn't make sense. As Corey Mills pointed out, when you're doing an assessment, you say, what's our 100-yard range? What's our 200, 300? The building right next to Trump's stage? Sorry. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. Vince H. is the perp was 20. He's been hearing MSM Trump derangement content since he was 12 years old. And this is what I've been telling you guys. 12-year-old goes on Facebook for the first time. And the whole feed is nothing but Trump is Hitler over and over and over again. Since his whole life. His whole life. It's the only thing he hears in all of the media. What does anyone think is going to happen? Stevens Dempsey says, prayers for Corey's family, for comfort and fond memories, prayers for knowledge about the truth, how this happened. I agreed. Brett Brink says, I think of Kathy Griffin holding that fake head and it makes me sick. I was at the rally. These people don't care about our lives. I think it's a bit worse than that, my friends. A lot of these people want the worst. To varying degrees. It is terrifying. Noah Sanders says, can you donate super chats tonight to Corey's family? You bet I can. You absolutely bet I can. Let's figure out that number. I'll say this. We had Sound of Freedom guys on, and I said I'd match the super chats, right? Turned into me writing a $25,000 check to their foundation. And I'm proud to say I did. That being said, even I have my limits of how much money we have, right? And I think we can. I think $25K is an easy match. I think that's what we can do. Heck, I'd love to give it all. But this is an expensive company, you know what I mean? We got, I don't know, what do we have, 40 to 50 employees, numerous projects and investments. We do well. Based on our current coffers, I think we can do a $25K match tonight. I'll check. It might be more. It might just be $25K. I wish I could do more. It's I don't know. Let me talk to my team. We have to check our accounting. And I'll see what we can do. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be fantastic. Absolutely. Let's make that happen. All right. But again, I got to talk to them. We'll figure it out. I'm hoping that I can come back and have a bigger number, but I have a feeling someone in accounting is going to be like, Tim, no, 25 is, we have these vendors. We have these, like I was saying, like we're negative for this trip. I'd love to be like, of course we're going to. Nah, we'll see what he can do. We'll see what we can do. I'll say at the very least, tonight, 100% of all contributions, I will write that check. We'll send it through. I want to match it, though. Tristan D says, I believe Biden was behind it, IMO. He said, time to put Trump in a bullseye in his tweet. It wasn't a tweet. It was a fundraiser speech. Someone made it into a tweet, and then that was fact check and got, I retweeted that. I took the retweet down after the fact check came out. That's my bad. But I think that's irresponsible. A lot of people said, yeah, well, Sarah Palin said crosshairs and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's a different context, my friends. The cultural context matters. The contemporary context matters. So I'll give you an example of what that means. People often refer to what is out of context. If I were to say something like this, I met a guy the other day. He walks up to me and he goes, I dislike chocolate cake. I just don't like it. Could you believe he said that? Now, if someone on the left heard that, they clip out the beginning and the end. So it's literally a clip of me saying, I just don't like chocolate cake. And they say, Tim Pool likes chocolate cake. That's what they do all the time. And so that's when I see videos of pundits and they say something, they're like, look what they said. I'm like, are they quoting someone? That's out of context. However, my friends, there's also contemporary context. And what that means is the circumstances surrounding an event matter. What is happening in the news matters to how we frame things. For example, I was speaking in 2016 about something related like Dave Rubin and the New York Times. And there was a specific story. So I said, I don't trust the New York Times. Okay, I'm not going to believe what they're saying. But Dave Rubin, I do trust. So if he's reporting something, the left took that and said, aha, we got him. What they omit from the contemporary context was, at the time, there was a big story in the news that we had been critical of the New York Times over for getting wrong. And I was referring to a series of events. So it's, even if you were to watch the extended clip, you might think I was saying that Dave Rubin's a better source than the New York Times. The context at the time is, big story was gotten wrong. A series of events and the reporting is not trustworthy. So you can say something. I guess one way to put it is if you said, it is certainly worth it to, like, if right now it's like, wow, the lottery, that's amazing. It is certainly worth it to buy a ticket. I mean, if you play that from start to finish, you're like, he's just saying the lottery is good. Unless it ignores that the jackpot's up to $10 billion, so it's an EV plus bet to buy a lottery ticket. You know what I mean? It takes the news and culture and the contemporary circumstances away from why you're saying the thing you're saying, even beyond just the literal statement you made. Even if you were to take the full quote where I was like, I met a guy who said he hated chocolate cake. Can you believe it? Even if you played it from in full, you'd be like, haha, see, the full context was he was quoting someone else. And it's like, yes, but beyond that, the bigger story in the news that everyone had already known was that a chocolate cake factory had been contaminated with someone. That's my point about greater contemporary context. We'll grab a couple more super chats, my friends, but smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Timcast.com, click join us, become a member. If you become a member at $10 a month, you can join our chat rooms and hang out with people. After 6 months, you get upgraded and can submit questions, or sign up right now for $25 a month and you can submit questions right away. We do this because we have trolls and haters and far leftists and people who want to disrupt the system and waste our time. So we needed to find a way to gate that. And at first we proposed, like, how about we just set like a certain amount of time you got to be a member. That way, it stops someone from just signing up. And it's like, yeah, but we want new members to sign up to ask questions. It's like, okay, how about $25 a month? Because that extra $15 a month, that's a threshold. And then after 6 months, you can lower your membership back down, but that gets you into the door right away. So we decided time or money. I wish there was a better way to do it. I really do, but it's not so easy. And then you submit your questions, and then you will join into our show and talk to us and our guests and be on live with us at timcast.com. And that's what sustains us. It keeps us going. Ads don't cover it. It is the memberships. If we didn't have you as members, we would not be here right now. We wouldn't. I don't even know what the show would be like. It'd be very small. We'd probably be up at night, for the show, but it'd be a lot smaller. So I really do appreciate everything you guys do for us. And smash the like button. Follow me on X at Timcast. I'm also on Instagram. We're going to be back tonight with big news. I am going to go now. It is currently 11 a.m. Central Time. I'm going to go to the RNC. We got to pick up our security badges. We got to meet some people, talk about what's going on, hear what Trump has to say. And then we're back here 8 p.m. Eastern for the show. Hopefully everything works out. But with how crazy things have gotten, some of our guests are like, schedule change. So we'll figure it out. Thank you so much, my friends, for hanging out in these trying times. Thank you for being who you are. And I hope it matters to you. And I hope that as an honest American who wants to help this country, you take the time this November and go out and vote for a man who literally just took a bullet for you. Fortunately, it's in the easiest possible way he could have. It went through his ear and he's all right. But I'm glad he's still around. And I hope they take security more seriously. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And we'll see you tonight.